The air at our wedding reception shimmered with joy. Or at least, that's what everyone saw. Fairy lights draped overhead. Champagne flutes clinked in celebration. Yet, even as I danced with Daniel, a faint unease stirred within me. I hadn't even changed out of my gown before the universe, or more accurately, my parents, began their subtle reminders that some old habits truly never die. Daniel and I had poured our hearts and our savings into planning our honeymoon. A year of dedicated effort, extra shifts, and careful budgeting culminated in tickets to Bali. We envisioned waking to sunlight filtering through palm trees, the gentle scent of jasmine, and the rhythm of ocean waves. This wasn't just a vacation. It was the foundation of our shared future, a sanctuary earned. It was our first real act of building a life completely our own. Then, the day after our vows, the phone rang. It was my mother, her voice dripping with an unsettling sweetness. "Darling," she cooed, "I know this is terribly sudden, but your father and I had a thought. We believe it might be more practical if we utilized your honeymoon booking ourselves." My breath hitched. "Excuse me?" I managed, my grip tightening on the phone. She continued, oblivious, or perhaps uncaring. "Your brother, Ryan, has been under so much pressure with his recent promotion. He genuinely needs a proper break. You and Daniel, you're so young. Without dependents, you can always plan another getaway. This arrangement simply makes more logical sense." My mouth went instantly dry. "Mom, we've been counting down the days for 12 months. Our flight departs in 48 hours. A beat of silence, then a heavy sigh, loaded with manufactured disappointment. "Don't be so self-centered. Dear, you always champion family devotion. This is merely a minor alteration." The line went. Dead moments later, leaving me trembling, a whirlwind of disbelief and rising anger. Daniel, who had overheard everything from the doorway, walked over, his face pale. "They can't be serious, can they? This is our honeymoon. They wouldn't dare." I wanted to dismiss it as a cruel joke, a momentary lapse in judgment. But deep down, I knew better. By morning, the grim reality had solidified. My inbox was a battlefield of forwarded emails from our travel agent. Our flight details had been rerouted. The idyllic Balinese villa was now rebooked under my brother Ryan's name. Even the excursions we'd researched for months now bore his identity. They hadn't just suggested it. They had already acted. They had stolen our trip, piece by painful piece. When I finally managed to confront my parents, my father shrugged. "You'll comprehend when you're older, Emma. Ryan's career is demanding. He needs time to recharge. And Ryan, he didn't even bother to feign regret." A casual text message arrived. "Thanks, sis. Europe is next for us. Maybe you two can do a staycation." The rage that boiled inside me was not new. It was a familiar, scorching heat that had simmered for my entire existence. This wasn't an isolated incident. It was the story of my life. Ryan was always the favored one, the shining star, the prodigal son. I, on the other hand, was the quiet one, the agreeable one, the child who made no fuss. My parents often lauded my low-maintenance nature. What they truly meant was easily overlooked. Every birthday, a slightly smaller cake, every achievement. A quick nod before the spotlight swung to Ryan's latest triumph. I learned to minimize myself, to make my desires tiny, digestible, so as not to overshadow his grand narrative. I foolishly hoped that getting married, forging my own path, would finally carve out a space where I was genuinely seen. But here I was again, expected to shrink, to accept erasure. And the most terrifying part, I almost did. A part of me was ready to utter the familiar it as perfectly fine, or to grant them unspoken permission to dismiss me yet again. But that night, as I stood before my open closet, staring at the empty suitcase intended for Bali, a different thought ignited within me. What if this was the precise moment I stopped giving away pieces of my life? What if, instead of mourning a lost dream, I forged an entirely new one? A dream where I didn't just ask for space, but simply claimed it. Daniel watched me silently as I deleted the travel confirmation emails. He understood. They'll never change. Emma, he whispered, clutching my hand. Perhaps it's time you stopped waiting for them. We wept together, tears of farewell and a strange, hopeful grief. He promised he'd be there when I found my bearings. But he also recognized the solitary nature of this journey. I needed to discover who I truly was, untainted by the constant hum of their critical voices. I think I finally stated, my voice steady despite the tremor in my hands. I need to go. Where? He asked, his eyes searching mine. I met his gaze and replied, somewhere they'll never imagine finding me. That very evening, while my parents likely raised champagne flutes with Ryan, I booked a one-way ticket to Lisbon, Portugal. No itinerary, no scheduled return, no more living a script written by others. I wasn't fleeing. I was launching myself towards a life they never believed I deserved to live. Stepping off the plane in Lisbon, a soft, cleansing rain greeted me. It wasn't the kind of bone-chilling downpour that dampens spirits, but a gentle, almost tender drizzle, as if the heavens themselves were hitting a reset button for me. I had never set foot in Portugal before. The language was a beautiful mystery, and I didn't know a single soul. My meager belongings consisted of a small carry-on, my passport, and a raw, aching sensation in my chest that was slowly, miraculously, transforming into something exhilarating. Freedom. I didn't inform my parents of my departure from the country. I didn't even share the exact destination with Daniel. We'd had a long, heartfelt conversation the night prior. He confessed something I knew he'd held back for too long. Lisbon, initially, was a beautiful, overwhelming challenge. I found myself perpetually disoriented by its ancient, winding streets. My tiny apartment, a cramped studio perched above a fragrant pastry shop, smelled perpetually of sweet dreams. Mornings were a blur of remote graphic design work, thankfully maintaining my client base. But afternoons became my sacred time. Armed with a second-hand camera I'd impulsively acquired, I wandered the cobblestone alleys, capturing glimpses of life. I started taking pictures purely for joy. Then, with increasing purpose, I documented everything. Vibrant laundry lines, the weathered smiles of elderly women, the mesmerizing way the sun melted into the Tagus River at dusk. I began sharing these images online, and to my utter astonishment, people noticed. They commented that my photographs possessed a rare soul, that they were like silent poems. Within half a year, I had garnered thousands of followers, then tens of thousands. Travel magazines reached out. I received an invitation to collaborate on a visual storytelling project centered on healing through the power of place. I couldn't believe it. The girl who was always told to soften her edges, to make less noise, to take up less room, was finally being heard, seen. I wasn't just surviving. I was flourishing, blossoming in a way I never imagined possible. But life, in its unpredictable wisdom, wasn't quite finished testing my newfound strength. A year after my exodus, an email arrived from my mother. The subject line read, "We need to talk." I paused, a knot forming in my stomach, before clicking it open. Inside was a carefully constructed, emotional trap, a masterclass in guilt tripping. Ryan, it stated, had lost his prominent job. My parents were financially strained and utterly devastated. They inquired if I could contribute, just temporarily, of course. Given my evident success with this photography hobby, that last phrase, photography hobby, struck me like a physical blow. A hobby, as if everything I had painstakingly built, brick by emotional brick, across an ocean, was still nothing more than a frivolous pastime in their eyes. Yet, I didn't respond with the fury I once would have. I had changed. I wrote back, calmly and clearly, "Dear Mom, thank you for reaching out. I'm genuinely sorry to hear about Ryan's situation. I truly hope he finds stability soon. However, I will not be providing financial assistance. I've spent my entire life sacrificing parts of myself so you could keep him whole. I have found profound peace here, not just in this vibrant city, but in the woman I've become. I sincerely hope one day you'll understand. Warmly, Emma. I never received another reply, and astonishingly, that silence brought no pain. Instead, it felt like a definitive ending, the final closing of a book I had tried to rewrite countless times. I was, at last, truly free to pen my own story. That same week, an incredible opportunity rose. A solo photography exhibition in Barcelona. The chosen theme, escaping the frame. It explored how we outgrow the predefined roles others assign to us, how we step beyond the limited pictures they paint. I poured every ounce of my journey into that show, my past loneliness, my present discoveries, my quiet rage, my boundless joy. On opening night, standing amidst my work, watching strangers connect with my photographs, a woman approached me, tears glistening in her eyes. Your images made me feel understood, she said softly, like I could leave my own life, too, and somehow be all right. In that profound moment, I realized my journey hadn't just been an escape. It had been a magnificent transformation. Daniel still sends me postcards. He remains in our hometown, a steadfast supporter from a distance. We didn't marry, we both evolved too much, too quickly, for that original path to hold. But he was the very first person who truly saw the potential for wings within me. For that unwavering belief, I will always carry immense gratitude. As for my parents, I don't believe they will ever truly grasp why I left. But that, I've learned, is perfectly fine. They don't have to. Because this life, this vibrant tapestry woven with art, new languages, and genuine purpose isn't for them. It is profoundly, beautifully mine, and I never needed their permission to start living it.